OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. I am not going to waste time with introductions. I am just going to get straight into it. As we all know, the draft started last Friday, and we have night 2 of the WWE draft, and I could not be more excited to talk to you about what has transpired on the draft. I feel like the women's division and the men's division is going to be incredibly elevated by a lot of these call-ups and a lot of the decisions that have been made to swap people around. So let's get straight into it. So we started off Monday Night Raw this week by seeing Patrick Mahomes, IShowSpeed, and Logan Paul all arriving to the arena. They actually run into the Judgment Day, and Damian Priest compliments Logan Paul on his US title reign. Now, obviously, this is actually kind of cool because Damian Priest is a former United States champion in his own right. So I really enjoyed having that little callback for that moment. And then Logan compliments the Judgment Day, so it seems as though there's some form of maybe alliance there in terms of, you know, they complement each other, they get along quite well, they're all heels at the end of the day, so that was really cool to see that interaction. Michael Cole and Pat McAfee were talking ringside, they were talking about the draft, but before we got into anything to do with the draft, Becky Lynch made her way out to the ring. She is now the new Women's World Champion after the gauntlet match last week. Battle Royale is what people will call it, but after that match she came out to the ring this week to cut a promo, and she was talking about how 6 years ago in this ring is where the origin of the man was born. Now that's where Becky Lynch got punched in the face by Nia Jax, was bleeding on the stairs, and she said that I'm now the new women's champion and times are changing, and it said it's been 2 years since I've held a world title, but my instinct is to hold this incredibly tight and just defend it as much as I can, which means I need to have a new number one contender. And I want to fight the best at the end of the day. And Liv Morgan came out. Sorry, I didn't mean for it to sound like that. I just kind of thought it was quite funny when Becky was like, oh, I want to fight the best. And then Liv came out. And I was like, okay, cool. Liv Morgan comes out and she's like, look, here I am at the end of the day. You owe me a match after what happened, and I did something that you couldn't do at WrestleMania when it came to Rhea Ripley, and I took her out, and this is still the Liv Morgan revenge tour, and the end game is me, and I will not stop until I have everything that I want. And Becky looks at her and she's like, look, you're right, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have done what I did, and I wouldn't have become champion if it didn't come to me getting rid of you in the match. So she turns it on Liv. Then Nia Jax comes out and the crowd is booing her louder than I've ever heard before. Nia Jax continues by saying that she could have dominated both Liv and Rhea throughout that battle royale, but they both actually teamed up to get her out of the match, so she could not possibly have won the title. She said, SmackDown is my new home and I will soon become the new champion, but I'll be taking one of you with me. And Liv Morgan interrupts and goes, well, if this is your way of asking for an open challenge, I'll gladly accept it, and then drop kicks Nia Jax. So is what it is. Sets up a match for later on in the evening. Then we see Jey Uso is backstage, and we see Stephanie McMahon is backstage. Now she's making her way out to the ring, out to the venue to actually announce the first round of draft picks. So Stephanie McMahon has made her way out to the arena to announce the first round of the draft picks for night 2 of the WWE draft. So the following people / groups have now gone to these different brands. I'm just going to go through it very quickly. So Raw has retained Gunther and Ludwig, and they actually refer to them as Imperium. So Giovanni's not an Imperium anymore. It quite literally was Gunther and Ludwig being obviously retained to Raw. SmackDown retains Jade Cargill. Raw actually gets Damage Control, so that's the Kabuki Warriors, Io Sky and Dakota Kai, and SmackDown has retained Kevin Owens. If I'm being honest, I'm really happy that Raw has now got Damage Control. I feel like they were getting quite tired on SmackDown. I feel like they'd done everything that they could do, and there wasn't really any new, fresh meat, basically, for them to go up against. So I'm super happy that Raw now has that faction. I feel like they can absolutely cause some mayhem on Monday Night Raw. Then we get a quick match between Gunther and Xavier Woods. Now, this is obviously after what happened last week, and this was a really great match. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of hard-hitting chops. It was quite fast. Gunther obviously had a lot of control from the very beginning. He hits a really nice power slam on Xavier, and then Xavier ends up fighting back, and we see Gunther chopping the hell out of Xavier, and he goes for a really nice missile drop kick. This is Xavier I'm referencing. There's a moment where he gets his legs stuck in the ropes, and Gunther is just attacking and going for that leg. And there's a moment where it looks like Kofi is about to grab a white towel, throw in the towel to end the match completely. But obviously Gunther is still going for that leg. He hits a really nice half crab, and then he ends up putting Xavier into the STF, and Gunther ends up winning via submission. I thought this was really good. Obviously you want to keep his momentum going into the King of the Ring. I'm really enjoying what Imperium are doing. I just really hope Giovanni is okay. Kathy Kelly is catching up with Jey Uso backstage, and she asks him how he's feeling about his match at Backlash for the World Heavyweight Championship against Damian Priest. And he's like, look, there's absolutely no pressure because Damian Priest is going to catch this yeet down. Then we get into round 2 of the draft picks. So we had Logan Paul and IShowSpeed coming out to make the announcements of round 2. So the following picks are as follows. Raw retains CM Punk. SmackDown retains The Pride, which is basically the Street Profits, Bobby Lashley and B-Fab. Raw actually retains Braun Strowman. So he was originally on Raw before he ended up having to leave for his injury. So Braun Strowman is back, which I'm so excited about. And SmackDown retains Tiffany Stratton. Logan Paul heads down to the ring and he starts talking about how Damian Priest is going to beat Jey Uso and how Jey Uso shouldn't have left the bloodline because he's incapable of becoming a champion on his own. Jay comes out and he's like, look, it looks as though Logan Paul has some predictions for Backlash. Logan's like, look, I've been yeeting since 2017. If you're trying to roast me, this is not going to work. And they kind of have a riff-raff back and forth. Then we see JD and Finn Balor coming in, obviously against Jey Uso. They've come to defend Logan Paul. And Jay ends up going after both members of the Judgment Day. And then Finn Balor ends up beating down on Jey Uso. Then there's a moment where Logan Paul goes to Patrick Mahomes and grabs his Super Bowl rings and tries to go ahead and punch Jey Uso very similarly to if he had brass rings, but he ends up accidentally getting JD. So I was like, oh, it's a bit of a shame. Following this, Braun Strowman came out and he ends up choke slamming Finn Balor. He literally looks so huge, picks him up like a little glass of water and just throws him. And then he ends up going after Logan Paul, and then Braun ends up getting into an argument with some of the NFL Kansas City Chief footballers that were sitting front row. And then we see Jey Uso grabbing him and stuff. So super happy that Braun Strowman is back. I feel like I've missed him. I feel like he's going to do a really great job on Raw. I'm hoping he's okay after his injury because apparently it was almost career threatening. So I'm really hoping he's all good. And we might even see the reunion of Ricochet and Braun Strowman as a tag team. I mean, I don't know, but it's cool. Truth is talking with Chad Gable. Now, they're obviously making some form of agreement when it comes to having some tag matches between the Alpha Academy, Miz and Truth. Miz kind of walks in halfway through and is really confused with what's going on. Truth is talking about how he's still waiting to get basically drafted to an NFL team. Miz has to tell him that's not actually happening. When we see Chad Gable turn around and he gets super kicked by Sami Zayn and he's just left cold on the ground. So Sami finally got his revenge against Chad, but it's still brewing. This is not the end of it. This is WWE. We know that things don't just end like that. Kathy Kelly is catching up with Booker T as he has been helping when it comes to some of the draft picks, and she's asking how he's been feeling about things so far. And he's like, look, Jade was a great pick. Then we obviously had Damian Priest staying in the Judgment Day, CM Punk. And then as soon as CM Punk's name gets mentioned, Drew McIntyre honestly runs to Booker T as if it's his book signing. He's so excited. He's literally obsessed with CM Punk at this point. And they have a really heated exchange talking about how Drew McIntyre's unsure why Booker T doesn't see the CM Punk that we obviously saw back in the day as what it is now. He's obviously very clouded by what's going on and thinking that Booker T hasn't changed. It's just, you know how Drew McIntyre is. He's a bit of a psycho at the moment. We head back to the ring where we have Bronson Reed taking on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. Bronson Reed is in control of this match at the very start. He powers Sami, but Sami ends up going flying over the ring ropes, and Bronson ends up catching Sami Zayn in a catches him because he tries to do a crossbody off the top ropes. Then he ends up hitting a running power slam, following this up by a senton, and then we hit the commercial break. After the commercial break, Sami Zayn hits a really nice clothesline, and we end up seeing Bronson hitting a really nice sit-out powerbomb, and Sami hits a helluva kick on Bronson when none other than Chad Gable comes in and starts assaulting Sami Zayn. Did I not say before that this is not over? I feel like we're going to be seeing a few matches between these guys. I could not be more excited, and I've seen rumors that Kurt Angle's quite literally open to coming back to being Chad Gable's manager for this entire thing, and I feel like that would be so perfect. I feel like that is the best way to do things. And we end up seeing a video about Kiana James. Obviously, she was a part of Night 1's draft picks. She's now going to be taking part on the Monday Night Raw roster within the women's division, and obviously Michael Cole and Pat McAfee were super excited for this. I couldn't be more excited for Kiana. I feel like she's going to be a fantastic addition to the Raw women's division, and I feel like she's really going to come here and just absolutely kill it. Then we go to round 3 of the draft picks. So Raw has actually scored LWO. So LWO has moved from SmackDown over to Raw. SmackDown has retained Legado del Fantasma, and I could not be happier about this decision. I feel like having these two factions on the same roster, it's actually stunted the growth of both of them. I feel like it hasn't really done them any favors. They've kind of been in a rut when it comes to constantly going up against each other, that I feel like splitting them is really going to help things. Raw retains Drew McIntyre, and Shinsuke Nakamura now moves over to Friday Night SmackDown, and I'm a little bit gutted because I really love Shinsuke on Raw. I feel like he really suits the brand, but Shinsuke has done some really great stuff on SmackDown, so I'm really excited to see where his future leads on that brand. Couldn't be more excited for Shinsuke, but I was just a little bit bummed out. Drew McIntyre comes out after this, and he's really confused. He's like, why have you waited to draft me all the way to round 3? And he's obviously jaded about the fact that CM Punk got drafted before he did, and he's calling everybody liars and stupid if they think that that's actually what should have happened when it shouldn't have happened. And he makes it known that he's actually fractured his elbow from what happened with CM Punk beating down on him after his WrestleMania match. And he starts talking about how obviously CM Punk's at home resting from his tricep injury, but I've been working through this fractured elbow week in, week out. I'm kind of better than you, blah, blah, blah. Then CM Punk's music hits, and he's like, obviously the Titantron has everything, and Drew turns around acting like he's right behind him. But if anything, CM Punk's actually in one of those like box suites, and he looks at him and he's like, are you looking for me? And he goes, I'm right here. And it was, so funny. It was great. Punk looks swole. I can't wait to get as swole as Punk. It's going to be great. Love me some CM Punk. I love me how he's just causing absolute carnage inside Drew McIntyre's mind. Drew McIntyre quite literally is just obsessed with CM Punk at this point. It's quite funny, actually. Then we had a moment between the Alpha Academy backstage and Maxine is getting all hyped up for her match. Obviously, Akira and Otis are trying to hype her up because she's going up against Candice later on, and Chad comes in and just absolutely rips them all apart. Says to Akira, do not do that dance. Otis, you got to snap yourself back in line. And Maxine's really excited for a match against Candice, but Chad's like, where's that title around your waist that you were supposed to have won last week? So Chad Gable's a meanie to everybody, and I don't really like it. I don't even know how to describe what happened next, because literally like 4 different segments happened in one. So Kathy's trying to catch up with Bron, because Bron's now been moved over in the draft to Monday Night Raw. And she starts talking to him and saying a few things, and he's like, look, I'm the best pick according to Adam Pearce when it comes to Monday Night Raw. Sheamus then comes in, and Bron's confused as to why Sheamus has interrupted his time, but Sheamus is like, look, I see me as a younger you, a much hungrier Sheamus, like, I'm a big fan of you. And then Drew ends up running by, and Drew's looking for CM Punk. He's obviously on a crazed run around, running around the arena trying to find CM Punk. But we go back to the ring because we have a very quick match between Maxine and Candice. I'm not a fan of these super quick matches, but I understand why they are happening. Maxine actually did really well in this match. She got a lot of offense in. At the start of the match, she had a really nice fisherman suplex, following up by the kip up, and then a really nice reverse caterpillar into an elbow drop and an ankle lock. You can definitely tell that Chad Gable has been helping her, and she's been working on her craft within the ring. She's really improving. Even Michael Cole mentioned that on commentary, so I couldn't be happier for Maxine. But what I'm not happy about is the fact that Indy had attacked Ivy. Ivy was in Maxine's corner, and Indy attacked her ringside. Candice ends up taking over and taking control of this match and secures the win. They both kind of just run off into the night as if nothing happened. So it is what it is. We have a reminder segment of what happened with the LWO and Legado del Fantasma last week. Obviously, Legado del Fantasma made it known and showed the footage of Carlito beating down on Dragon Lee. Then we see Kathy is catching up with the LWO backstage and is asking, how do you feel about being drafted over to Monday Night Raw? And Ray's like, look, there's a lot of mixed emotions with what's going on, especially with Carlito, but we have a lot of unfinished business. Dom then comes in and starts trying to make a mockery of everything, and he's like, well, we run Monday Night Raw. And then Ray ends up making a comment about Dom's moustache, which was quite funny. We see that Drew McIntyre is still looking for CM Punk. He's running around everywhere. He's at the top, going into all the box suites, being like, a CM Punk in this one, a CM Punk in this one. And he ends up going into one, and there's like a signed print from CM Punk. And he's like really angry because that must have been the box that he was in. CM Punk makes his way out to the ring and he says, look, Kansas, I'm going to take up less time than Drew McIntyre did in his title run at WrestleMania. And he's like, Pat, how long was that? And then Pat was like, 5 minutes, something. So Punk sits down. He hits a really nice quick pipe bomb, which was really cool to see. He basically just calls Drew McIntyre a ex-girlfriend who's obsessed. And he says that, if anything, you've given me purpose by wanting to fight back and get back at you. I'm surprised you didn't break your elbow on Twitter, because that's all you seem to be really good at these days. CM Punk calls himself the best in the world, and he says that losers pray for these kind of injuries and losers pray for these kind of moments, but winners make these moments happen. And when I am medically cleared, I'm going to make your life a living hell. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. And it was, what was even funnier about this segment is Pat McAfee was shouting out like timestamps for CM Punk, so we obviously knew how close he was to the threshold of how long he could speak for, which I think really added to the comedic factor within this segment. Following this, we have round 4 of the draft. Now, the picks are as follows. Raw retains the Judgment Day, and it was actually, I was quite concerned when this happened because it only got announced as Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio and JD. I completely forgot that Damien was protected. I was like, oh no, they didn't say it, but they also didn't say Rhea as well, which was quite confused, but I guess that she's not technically considered in this because she's injured. SmackDown retains Naomi. Raw actually calls up Ilya Dragunov from NXT, and I screamed. I jumped out of my seat. I'm so excited. This call up for Ilya Dragunov is so incredibly long overdue. He is a freaking powerhouse down in NXT. He's a veteran at this point. Like, I feel like he's done everything he could have done down in NXT, so I'm so excited to see him finally get this moment on the main roster. He was very happy as well too, which I don't blame the guy. And then SmackDown has actually gained Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Now, Adam Pearce is quite happy with this because obviously Chelsea Green is a nagging Nancy, and now it's Nick Aldis's problem, so that's quite funny. Then we ended up going into the match between Liv Morgan and Nia Jax. This was a very short match. I'm not really going to comment much about it, but Nia got a lot of offense in, but then Liv Morgan managed to kind of turn it around. Tiffany Stratton was actually watching ringside, and then Naomi came and attacked Tiffany whilst she was watching ringside, and they kind of just get into a bit of a brawl around the outside of the ring. Liv takes control during that moment and secures the win over Nia Jax. Cool, I guess, but it is what it is. Then we see Kathy Kelly is catching up with Booker T again and is asking about how he's feeling about some of these draft picks so far. And he's obviously really proud of Ilya because Ilya's been in NXT. Booker's been watching him, super excited that he's finally being called up. She quickly catches up with Adam and she's like, look, I know that you're busy in, your rooms and stuff trying to do your picks, but how do you feel about how Raw is shaping up so far? And Adam's like, look, it's a new foundation. I'm super happy with how things are going and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Following this, we have round 5 of the draft. I'm smashing through this because honestly, this episode was pretty much just centered around the draft picks. But anyway, so Raw secures and keeps the New Day. Same with SmackDown, they keep Pretty Deadly. Lyra Valkyria is called up from NXT and is going to be a part of Raw. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I feel like she's also one of the women down there that I feel like she's done everything that she needed to do, and it's super exciting to see her getting called up to the main roster. And then we see that Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell are actually moving over to Friday Night SmackDown. A little confused by that decision, but I mean, it is what it is. I feel like those two ladies can do some really great things on SmackDown. And there's a lot of talent over there they haven't got to interact with yet, so that's very exciting to see. A super quick tag match between the Alpha Academy and The Miz and R-Truth, and I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't get a chance to write any notes down because I was just really confused with what was going on, but Miz and Truth won, so that's cool to see, I guess. Then we end up having a Judgment Day video package backstage, and obviously they are in shambles. Damian Priest is upset with them because they cannot keep their together. and JD has like this massive gouge on his head because of where he got hit with the brass rings, or the Super Bowl knuckles, I think. And they basically just come to the consensus they need to win in this 6-man tag, which is happening later on. Liv Morgan runs into Becky Lynch, and Becky says congratulations on your win, and then Damage Control go ahead and touch that Women's World Championship and say to Becky that we'll be seeing you on Monday Night Raw. Becky's like, did they just touch my title? The final round of the WWE draft. And this is interesting. This is interesting to say the least. So Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis made the announcement that the Final Testament will be moving over to Monday Night Raw. SmackDown will be taking DIY. Bronson Reed will be staying on Raw, and Blair Davenport is being called up from NXT and will be going over to Friday Night SmackDown. And like I said about Lyra, I'm very excited. Blair Davenport is one of those ladies down in NXT who I feel like she's done everything that she needs to do. I don't think there's anything else that she could do. I don't think they were going to make her a women's champion. Not everybody down in NXT needs to become a women's champion. I definitely can see some great things for her. She is an underrated talent for sure, and I can't wait to see what she does on the main roster. We come to the main event, and it is a 6-man tag, so it's the Judgment Day, so you have Damian, Finn, and JD taking on the team of Jey Uso, Andrade, and Ricochet, and this was just absolute chaos this entire match. So Finn and Andrade start, and then Andrade ends up knocking both Finn and JD outside of the ring, and it's just absolute chaos at this point. Hit a commercial break, but after the commercial break, Damian's in the ring and he's in control and he slaps Ricochet. Then Judgment Day end up double teaming Ricochet. Jey Uso comes with a hot tag and he's just going absolutely crazy during this match. He's hitting every single move. Some really nice step up insecurities as well too. Then we see Damian Priest come in and he clotheslines Jey Uso, and then the Judgment Day end up ruining Damian's moment to get the finisher South of Heaven on Jey Uso. But Jey Uso ends up finding a moment where he can capture control within this match and secures the win for himself, Ricochet, and Andrade, which obviously this does not make Damian Priest happy going into his match at Backlash, knowing fully well the Judgment Day do not have his back, and obviously he's told them to stay out of his business because every time the Judgment Day tries to intervene, things just go absolutely crazy. And I feel like what's going to happen is the Judgment Day is just going to turn into absolute shambles, and Rhea's going to come back and be like, what the hell happened, kind of thing. And sadly, that brings us to the end of the Monday Night Raw review for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the WWE draft and seeing where a lot of the wrestlers are going to be ending up, because I know that I did. I'm super happy with the NXT call-ups that we got. I feel like we'll be getting more call-ups as time goes on. Super excited for Lyra, Ilya, Kiana, and Blair. I feel like they're going to make a real impact on the main roster. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you go ahead and put a like on it. Go ahead and comment something that you enjoyed about Monday Night Raw this week. Make sure while you're there to go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon. It's a notification setting so that you do not miss any of our uploads. Basically, it will just remind you when we've posted a review or a podcast. While you're there, go ahead and check out the description. You can find all of our social medias for Outcasted, where you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as all of our personal social medias, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on here. As always, you've got your regularly scheduled NXT review from Reese this week. I believe it's Spring Breakin' Part 2. So I'm super excited for his review on that, because Spring Breakin' last week was really good. Obviously, Trick Williams becoming the new champion. Can't wait to see what they do on NXT this week. We've also got the podcast coming in on Thursday, where we'll be doing our Backlash predictions with a special guest who I am not allowed to disclose because we want to keep that a secret for you guys. And you've got your SmackDown review coming in, and potentially a Backlash review coming in later on in the week. Stay tuned for that just in case. But that is why that bell icon is going to be so good, because it's going to help you keep up to date with all of our content. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch you guys in the predictions podcast this week. Bye guys.